Welcome back to Goenka Chronicles. I am Ishita Kaushik, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Gauri Agarwal. She has got brains for days. Think top-notch psychology degrees and a national scholarship. But she's not just book smart, she's also a creative powerhouse. Poetry, painting, dancing, you name it, and she's probably aced it. She's not just an academic achiever and a passionate reader, but also a homemaker, a role that is often overlooked but is truly the backbone of a strong and loving family. Miss Agarwal beautifully balances intellect, creativity, and tradition, proving that being a homemaker is not just a responsibility but a powerful contribution to society. And today we celebrate her journey, wisdom, and strength that she brings to her family and beyond. Welcome to the show, ma'am. We are very excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Ishita.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Can you tell us something about your college life?
Okay. See, I did my schooling from Mount Carmel College, that is here in Lucknow. And I was a bright student since the beginning. And we had really expert teachers over there, which used to guide us in various ways. And I was equally interested in all the co-curricular activities. And I was into guiding, that is Scouts and Guides, you might have heard about that. And we were going to different camps also to learn the scouting skills and everything. So after doing my schooling, I went to IT college, that is Isabella Thoban College of Lucknow. And there's this change of stream which I opted for. I was a science student till class 12th. And in the vacation after class 12th, I studied about various humanity subjects. And psychology subject as in fascinated me. And it pulled me towards it. So I graduated into psychology as major. And then here in IT college, again, I was there for all the extracurricular activities, and my teachers were really proud of my performance. And I was collecting so many academic awards. I was fortunate enough to be a part of all the street plays, Nukkad Nataks, musical dramas, and you name the curricular activity, I was there. See, poster making. I cannot actually, remember all those things, little things, but they were shaping my life. Now, when I look back and I think about it, it's so important in one's life to, be a part of all those activities. So here in graduation, I was awarded with the Best Psychology Student Award and for gaining highest marks in BA. Then I was awarded with a very prestigious National Scholarship Award, which you mentioned, for my postgraduate studies. And naturally, I went again for psychology post-graduation, and I had counseling psychology and clinical psychology there as my papers in the second year. So, and more after a gap of, say, 25 years, recently, my love of psychology has never ended, and I was constantly doing some online courses, short courses, sitting at home. Now, I did this PG diploma in psychological counseling from Symbiosis, and after the completion of which, I was appreciated by my friends and family, and it really made me feel so happy and validated.
That's lovely, ma'am. The way you described and summarized, it's absolutely amazing. You had quite a college life, both academically and co-curricular wise.
Thank you.
So I have been told you're a big reader. Do you have a favorite book?
I have many. There's this book called Man's Search of Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It talks about a man who's there in the Nazi camp during the World War II. And he's looking the life over there with his own eyes, and he finds out a sense of purpose pulls you through any kind of hardship. And the survivors from that Nazi camp were the people who had that sense of purpose. They were living their lives to, achieve some goal. So I really liked this book. And then again, may I tell you one more?
Yes, please. We were laughing.
So there's this book called Tuesdays with Morrie, and I would suggest all of you students to go and read it. It is by an author named Mitch Albom. There's this, in this book, it's a non-fiction book, and he writes about his constant visits to his professor, who is on the deathbed, on the last stage of his life, and is telling him various things. And it's actually very, very knowledgeable book, I must say. And the list goes on.
And the books you told, I'm sure I'm going to give them a good read.
Oh, nice.
So your poem Arthnand was published. That's amazing. What inspired you to write it?
In our college, as I mentioned, IT college, there was this time when we were trying to get funding from Ford Foundation to diverse our campus. We had a few departments in IT college at that point of time, talking about 25 years back. And we were trying to get the grant for diversing our departments in college, and we were basically walking in the direction of getting this women's cell. Women's studies is a subject. So for getting the grant for this particular subject, we were doing things during our graduation years, various things. As I told you about street plays and Karnataks and dance choreography, we were doing in this direction. So few selected students were chosen by a group of teachers to work in this direction, and we were constantly doing various things for this women's cell. Arthnand was the poem written in this for this cell and for propagation of our idea. What are the women's needs of the time? And so that's that.
That's lovely. As you said, you did your schooling from Carmel and then went on to IT. Both are convent institutions.
Kind of.
How do you feel the impact they had was different from other schools?
At my age, my time, schooling in Carmel was a blessing, as we had gem of sisters over there who instilled this concept of discipline in us. So much so that today, in times when we are as parents more open to the teachers, I still, somehow do not find the courage, or, courage is the wrong word here. I don't feel so free with teachers. I want to be, maintain some distance, and there's this respect. The ongoing respect is there for the authorities, always. So, convent helped me in many, many ways, right from wearing the right length of the skirt and many other things. We were, strictly disciplined, making 2 plats. And we were blessed to have many good teachers over there. Many good teachers who, motivated me to inculcate this habit of learning throughout. So it is not dying anyhow. It's an ongoing process.
As you said, teachers and sisters, are you in touch with any of them from those days?
Not actually, but when I go to these alumni meets, sometimes I meet my teachers. Their memories have faded, but they remember. Few remember familiar faces, and they greet you and meet you like that. So it's a very different feeling you feel in school once again. So yeah.
That's lovely. So, what a perfect day, according to you, would look like?
A perfect day would be full of happiness. Everyone around me would be with happy faces, full of life, doing their own chores. And that's it.
It's amazing how, you're thinking about others as well, while describing your perfect day, that everyone should be happy.
My happiness lies accordingly. My happiness means it lies in happiness of people around me. So it's interrelated, you can say.
That's very true. A good environment
Yeah.
would definitely impact. So, considering you're a homemaker, what is one thing that you love the most? Any experience or any part of the day that you enjoy the most?
Part of the day would be my personal time. That is, you can say, I have to steal out of my, daily routine. I need my personal space, doing my duties and responsibilities, taking good care of them and finding my me time. And then I do all things which are close to my heart. I have an agenda set in the morning. What am I going to do today? Or I might start in a couple of weeks, or, tomorrow morning. So there's this agenda in my mind. What am I going to do for myself? So it's constantly keeping me moving.
So, as you talked about keeping agendas, can you give us few examples, like what are the things that you do for yourself in your personal time?
Okay. See, I'm into many things. I am a good reader. You said I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I read English books as well as Hindi writers as well. I love to read about, ghazals and Hindi poetries also. I love to read about historical books, autobiographies. See, all it started with those magazines and those children books and comics and Mills and Boons. All those phases have come and gone, but now it has diversed. And then I'm doing DIY. DIY in the sense I'm somehow preparing my house for any festival like Janmashtami. I make a huge jhaki which everyone appreciates. And for Diwali, I make rangolis and pretty things, Vandan vase and everything to put into decorate my home. And I like to gift people greeting cards handmade by watercolor or Zentangling. I'm doing doodling a lot, and watercoloring is my favorite medium to express myself, and it's for me. Though there's a page on Pinterest that's not public. Okay. It's for me only, where I, collect all the things I do, and many, many things.
You talked about painting and stuff. So, did you go to any class to learn it, or you gradually developed it, or during the lockdown?
No. It all started since long. When I was a kid, I used to love art, enjoy art. So I'm a self-learner. I've not learned art somewhere. I did a workshop somewhere for a 2-3 day workshop. That was altogether a different thing. It was about knife painting. So otherwise, I'm a self-learner.
That's sweet. So, I have heard you have a deep appreciation for traditions and spirituality. How do you integrate these into your daily life?
See, just now I told you about I prepare my house for Janmashtami jhanki. So I'm making all those traditions, there. It's missing out these days. Children of your generation or maybe smaller ones, they might not have heard about the Janmashtami jhankis. It used to be a very common feature in our times when we were little. So I try to bring this back in my own personal way, and luckily I have seen this rubbing off in my few friends and family members. They're not doing such a huge jhanki, but still they are trying to make something or the other on Janmashtami day. That's such a small example. And my mother-in-law is a very traditional person, and I have learned a lot from her, that simply by doing daily things on your own, like me and my mom-in-law, we do our things, our pujas and rituals daily basis. Children are just observing, but when they are out and they are missing out on such days, they tend to think, oh, they are missing something, or they try to, do it on their own. So some or the other, we are passing on these traditional things and rituals things. I think so it's very important. And spirituality, as you say, spirituality is within you. It's about mental peace, how you take life, how you look at the world. So it's a big, vast subject.
Right. The way you described, the things that you're doing so that the next generation also learns about preserving the traditions and stuff. It's lovely the way you're accommodating everything and making sure that they're learning something out of it. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So considering you did your bachelor's in psychology, political science and sociology, what made you choose these subjects? What caused, or what was that moment that triggered you to change your stream altogether?
Okay. See, I was a good student in science stream as well, but there was this idea instilled into me by my brother, who was himself preparing for UPSC examinations. So at that point of time, there were very few streams which you could choose, and he got me into this idea of choosing these subjects, and we together, as I told you, in the vacation of class 12th, I studied few subject books and chose my subjects accordingly. So that was there.
That's lovely. So do you use any kind of psychological principle in your parenting or in family dynamics?
Oh, it's always there. Back of the mind, it's always there. See, psychology is the science of human behavior. So when you know the basic tenets, you're applying somehow or the other, you are applying unconsciously. Like for example, about the self-concept. You might have heard about the self-concept. The basic self-concept is, in initial years, it is developed by family only. So family helps you in developing your self-concept, and constantly what I'm feeding my child, what I'm giving him back, as in ki, see, oh, okay, I'm constantly motivating you in some way or the other, and it's positively shaping up your self-concept. And same way, in initial years, when you know ki, what are the developmental ages and how the child should go on, it helps in that. And also in the old age, it helps you there also to understand the elderly's problems and issues. So it's a vast thing. It's a vast thing.
I must say I've got a good understanding of the subject. So how do you find your background in psychology, sociology and political science informing your approach to homemaking, other than being able to understand them nicely?
See, there's this constant learning approach. You understand various concepts and you're able to teach your children also about various issues. You understand society, you understand how people behave. So it's altogether good in a way.
That's nice. So we are going to be asking you few set of questions, and whichever guest would come next, they'll be asked the same set of questions. So, what is feminism to you in one sentence?
See, I've never been a feminist. I'm a humanist rather. I believe in human being. Being male or female is a secondary thing. First, be a human. Then think about it.
That's an amazing viewpoint to look at it this way. So, what is one relationship advice which you will give to today's youngsters?
Okay, there are going to be many. Don't worry. See, first of all, I must say use discretion. Discretion in the sense you should always know what is correct for you, what is right, what is wrong. When you know what is right and what is wrong, you understand what is the right way for you. Be in gratitude, whatever you are blessed with. Your family, your, social status, or anything, the things which you are being blessed with, be in gratitude for that. And there are going to be many more. Let's stop there.
Very true. If you had to describe your journey through a book title or a song, what would it be?
Oh.
Can be a song, can be a book.
I think so. It can be Rainbow of Colors.
Very true. The way you have described your entire college life and co-curricular activities, I'm sure it definitely says Rainbow of Colors. So what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Be yourself. Always be yourself.
That's very true. One single line, but has a lot of depth to it, I guess. So how has your definition of achievement changed since transitioning to homemaking?
My sense of achievement is not based on what others think. See, I don't have a job title. And I'm very clear in my mind, it is not going to validate my being. My validation comes from the respect and love of my family members and even the extended family, my friends, everyone who just respects me and loves me through my heart, through their heart, and they look forward, they just call me and ask me for help personally, secretly, many of them do, that's, and I'm a very good secret keeper, I must say. So that's there. That's truly appreciating that is the gist of my being.
You said you're a good secret keeper. What are the qualities you really think are very essential to be a good secret keeper?
You need to understand why all the important things in life are not to be shared with everyone, and you have to be empathetic about the person who has asked you to keep a secret, and you should apply your discretion whether this secret has to be kept or not. Is it important enough? If a normal teenager is telling something which is to be told to the parents, then this rule does not apply. And I tell them also. So that's there.
So you said about having understanding of others. How do you implement this thing in your house? How do you teach your children to develop this understanding that you have? How do you impart empathy in them?
See, children learn from just looking at you. How you are behaving daily. You need not make them sit and talk and talk and talk. They don't like that lecture mode. Especially like my children, one is a teenager and one is a grown-up. So I don't think they like that mode. So apply it on yourself. If the way you want your children to be, just do it. So I do it that way.
That's lovely. What's one problem that you see in our generation, that is Gen Z, that you think needs to be addressed immediately?
Your phones, your social media platforms, so much so that you're not realizing you're wasting your precious time. See, what I tell my daughter also, when you're a student, be a student. Your first priority is to be a student first. Play your role accordingly in whichever age you are, whichever role you are playing, your priority should be fixed like that. What I feel.
That's brilliant. I believe you addressed the correct problem. That was the social media and mobile phones and stuff. I believe my peers and I myself, are a victim of it. Anything that does not take money from you wastes your time.
Yeah.
And that's
It does.
Now, considering you did so much co-curricular and handled academics as well, being a student, how do you think you did that? Like, what are the steps you made or you ensured to, follow these things, that you are excelling in co-curricular as well as in academics?
See, though this is not a very correct way of living life, but I'll tell you about I had this chronic need of appreciation altogether. See, so I had to prove myself in all the areas. I was like, doing everything and nothing. I was in the race of getting on the stage anyhow the other. So I think so I had to do it all. There was this need in me, deep rooted.
I see it. The power of the fuel. Then damn. Now I'm going to ask you a few rapid questions. A quote or a mantra you live by.
Give respect, get respect.
Lovely. Tea or coffee, what feeds your thoughts?
Oh, tea. Any day tea.
So do you drink any special kind of tea?
No, normal doodh, chai, patti, chini wala chai.
What's your go-to way to relax after a long day?
My tea and my good book.
I mean, that sounds like a dream. So, what is one thing that you feel is very different from when you were a student to when we are students in this generation? One thing that strikes you like, oh damn, this is so, different than it was during our times.
The information bombardment. Oh, my God, you people are going through so much. I sometimes feel bad about it. You're struggling. You have to, put your best in terms of, looking your best. We were the casual ones. We were not thinking about our physically how presentable we are in day-to-day living. But there's this constant pressure on the generation today, and putting best pictures on social media and following this and that, and what is that you are missing? You're constantly in that FOMO. So that's bad. I really feel bad about it. It was not like that in our times.
Anything that you would like to advise us, like to keep ourselves on the right track and not get swayed away with these things, with the external validation, or how to look like them, or to try to fit in? What is one thing that you would like to convey to our generation?
That's what. See, I just told you, be yourself. Be yourself. Just look into yourself deep down. What is really that you want? Apart from all the friends, peer pressure, teachers' advice, parents' advice, just go into your introspection mode. Think about what is the right and wrong, and what is that you actually want. Think about it and then find a way. And then you find a way, then just do it. Just do it. Just be a go-getter. Somehow or the other, just find a way to, steal time to do it. keep on doing other things also, but be clear, prioritize.
So you said prioritize. How do you prioritize your tasks when it comes to homemaking?
Yes. As I told you, I plan my day. I plan my day. I know my duties. I know my time of various responsibilities, and I steal time for myself.
That's amazing. I mean, one needs to learn the art of prioritization, especially in today's time when everything is moving so fast.
Pardon?
If you could leave one advice for everyone listening today about life, growth, or finding peace, what would it be?
I think so. Adaptability is what is missing in today's times. Everyone is trying to, throw their weight around. What I feel, being humble, being down to earth, being adaptable is such a boon to us. We are forgetting our basic, virtues, human beings ke jo virtues. So just be that, keep, keep thinking about it and do it.
I'm sure all of us who are listening today will impart this in our lives. And that brings us to the end of this incredible conversation. Today, we have had the privilege of hearing Miss Gauri Agarwal's journey, one filled with learning, creativity, and deep fulfillment that comes from nurturing a home and a family. Her story reminds us that success isn't just about titles or achievements. It's about the impact we create in the lives of those around us, the passions we pursue, and the values we uphold. To all our listeners, I hope this conversation has left you with a newfound appreciation for the strength and beauty in everyday roles. Thank you for tuning in to Goenka Chronicles. I am Ishita Kaushik, and we'll see you next time with another inspiring story. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and cherish the journey you're on. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Ishita.